Hello everyone. Welcome back to the episode 4. Today I would like to say hi you guys first before you listen to this story. And I really want to say this story and about the person in this story is really important to me. As you know, well maybe you don't know. I'm also current, and yes, Billy is a current. When I feeling sometimes I feel useless, and sometimes I feel I'm not deserved to this world. But when I listen to his story and his brave to fight for current people, he made me feel while his life so useful for current people. I also have some time that I feel something I want to tell my people in my village about their rights. I'm really respect them as a human, as a current, Billy's and of course his wife. And yeah, that's all I want to say hi at first, and let's start the story.
Deep in the ancient lush forests of Thailand, there are homes to countless indigenous communities, including the current people, that have been guardians of this land for generations, living a life deeply connected to nature. But their very existence is often under immense pressures from the modern world, from landlord issues, and from the fragility of their ancestral home. And it was into this world that a man named Porlajee Rakchongcharoen, or Billy as everyone knew him, was born. He wasn't just another member of the current community. He was a brave fighter, a powerful voice for his people's rights. Billy dedicated his life to protecting their traditional land, fighting against forced evictions, and making sure their voices were heard, even when powerful people tried to shut them down. His fierce determination made him a beacon of hope for his community and a major figure in Thailand's human rights history. On this episode, I take you deep into the heart of some of Thailand's most complex historical moments and criminal cases. These aren't just stories, they are a reflection of deep complexity, unsolved mysteries, and the chilling truths that lie just beneath the surface of this fascinating country. And today, we're diving into the story of the disappearance of Billy Porlajee. This is a story that will challenge what you think you know and invite you to join the fight for justice with a question that still haunts the very heart of the Thai jungle. Get ready to uncover another hidden truth. To really get what happened to Billy, you have to understand his life and where he came from. Billy was a young current man, born and raised in the community of Ban Pong Luk, Bang Kloi, right next Kaeng Krachan forest area. This place, as stunning as it is, had been the center of a long-running conflict between the current people, who see it as their ancestral land, and the Thai state, which declares most of it a national park. Billy was known for being smart, brave, and deeply connected to his cultural heritage. He wasn't just a regular villager. He stepped up to become a community leader and an activist who fought tirelessly for his people. In his personal life, he was a family man with a wife P.4 or Muenor, and they have 5 kids together. Even more importantly, he was the grandson of the respected spiritual leader Grandpa Koi Mimi, a symbol of the fivefold land life. For the current people, a spiritual leader isn't just someone who performs ritual. They are anchor connecting the community to the forest and their ancestors. Grandpa Koi was a keeper of that traditional wisdom, like rotational farming, a sustainable agricultural system perfectly in tune with nature. He was the one who knew when to plant, when to let the land rest, all by reading the stars and the world around him. His knowledge was the key to survival. Billy directly inherited the spirits of protecting their way of life. But before this whole conflict exploded into what became known as Operation Tanangsi, it all started with a promise. Years earlier, state officials came to talk to the villagers at Chai Pandin, or Bang Kloi Bon. It's meant like Upper Bang Kloi. They told the villagers that the land they would live on for generations was a critical watershed forest that needed to be protected. They painted a picture of a better future, a future where their children would have schools, health clinics, and most importantly, new legal plots of farming waiting for them down at Bang Kloi Lang. Yes, Lower Bang Kloi. Many villagers believed them and cooperated. They packed what little they could, leaving behind their homes and barns full of seeds, hoping for that better life they were promised. But the dream they were sold, it shattered the moment they arrived. The land the state gave them wasn't the fertile ground they had hoped for. It was rocky, full of gravel, so barren you could barely grow anything. Their way of life, the rotational farming, that's what life breathing to them, was impossible on this new land. With no way to farm, starvation slowly began to creep in. Hope turned to despair. And that's what led some of the villagers to do what their hearts were telling them to do. To journey back to Chai Pandin, back to their true home. They had no idea that this journey home would trigger a historic tragedy that would change their lives and beliefs forever. The real tipping point that turned Billy into a full-blown activist was what happened in 2011 under Operation Tanangsi. National Park officials swept in and burned down over 100 homes and rice barns belonging to the villagers in Chai Pandin, their ancestral home. The operation left a deep, painful scar on the community. Billy didn't just sit back and watch. He was instrumental in gathering evidence, taking photos and videos of the destruction to be used in a lawsuit against the National Park Department to demand compensation for the villagers. He also became the main contact person with the Loyal Council and the National Human Rights Commission. This turned him from just a villager into a true human rights defender. This legal battle, combined with his constant campaigning, made him a prominent figure and probably a thorn in the side of some very powerful people. Here's a little fact you might not know. Right before he disappeared, Billy had submitted the petition to the King Rama IX on behalf of the villagers, pleading for justice in the land dispute. It just goes to show he was trying every legal avenue he could. The day Billy vanished became the turning point in this long-running conflict. It was April 17, 2014. Billy was on his way from his village to town. He had an important meeting to prepare more documents for their ongoing lawsuit. He was last seen riding his motorcycle near the Kaeng Krachan National Park headquarters. According to reports, on the same day, he was stopped and detained by Chayawat Limlikit Akson, who was the head of the national park at the time, along with his team. According to Chayawat's initial story, Billy was arrested for illegal processing 6 bottles of white honey. Chayawat claimed he let Billy go after giving him a talking to, and that was the last time anyone officially saw Billy. But right away, human rights organizations and Billy's family smelled something fishy. The story just didn't add up. And it's at this point that Billy's story stopped being a simple missing person case and becomes a textbook case of enforced disappearance, a serious violation of international human rights. So, why does Billy's case perfectly fit the definition of an enforced disappearance? Well, it ticks all 4 major boxes. Deprivations of liberty. Billy was detained by state officials and his freedom was taken away. That's the first step. Involvement of state agents. The person who detained him was the head of the national park and his team, clearly state officials acting in their official capacity. Refusal to acknowledge or concealment to faith. This is the heart of it. The officials claim they let Billy go, but, and this is a huge but, there was no official arrest record at police station. This is a denial of responsibility and a cover-up of what happened to Billy next. It left everyone in the dark about his fate. Removal from the protection of the law. When the state refuses to admit they have someone in custody, the family can use the legal system to fight them. That's as we saw when the court initially dismissed the family's plea, saying there wasn't enough evidence to believe Billy was still in the official's custody. All of this didn't just rob Billy of his freedom, it caused incredible pain for his family and completely removed him from the protection of the law. The moment Billy didn't come home, his wife, Muenor, began a long and heartbreaking fight. She wasn't fighting alone, was carrying the hopes of her 5 children and the entire community on her shoulders. On April 21, 2014, just 4 days after he vanished, Muenor went to the provincial governor to file a complaint, but nothing really came of it. On April 24, after a full week with no sign of him, She went to court, convinced her husband was being illegally held by state officials. Sadly, the court dismissed her case, saying there wasn't enough proof. But Muenor never gave up. For years, she went from one agency to another, filing complaints. Finally, after more than 4 years of her relentless efforts, something shifted. On June 28, 2018, the Department of Special Investigation, or DSI, officially accepted Billy's disappearance as a special case. Well, DSI is like FBI in Thailand. This was a massive turning point. It meant his case was no longer being treated as simple missing person report. It was now being investigated as a complex crime, possibly involving state officials. The DSI launched a full-scale investigation between April and May of 2019. A major search operation began. The DSI team, working with experts, brought in underwater drones to scan the bottom of the Kaeng Krachan Dam reservoir, focusing on an area near a suspension bridge. The sonar images show a suspicious object deep underwater. A team of divers from the Border Patrol Police went down into the murky depths, and what they found changed the status of the case forever. An oil drum, dented and showing signs of being burned. When they brought it to the surface, they found human bone fragments, two steel rods, and charcoal mixed in with the mud inside. This crucial piece of evidence was rushed to the Ministry of Justice Central Institute of Forensic Science. And it's what here that the team pieced together the final grim puzzle. They found a fragment of the skull from behind the ear, the pectoral temporal bone. It's the hardest densest bone in the human body, which is why it miraculously survived the intense heat and protected the DNA inside. The team used a special method to test a mitochondrial DNA, which is passed down only from mother to child. They compared the result to the DNA of Billy's mother. It was a perfect match. On September 3, 2019, the DSI held a press conference that was broadcast across the country, announcing the truth everyone had been waiting 5 long years to hear. The bone fragments found in the oil drum at the bottom of the Kaeng Krachan Dam belonged to Mr. Porlajee Billy Rakchongcharoen. In that moment, the family's wait was over, and the fight for justice in a murder case had truly begun. Chilling side note, after the news broke, a Twitter user posted an old photo they had taken at the suspension bridge back in 2015 to 2016. There was a severe drought that year, and the water level in the dam was incredibly low. In the photo, clear as day, was an oil drum lying on the dry reservoir bed. It's a terrifying thought that the truth was literally hiding in plain sight for years, just waiting to be uncovered. So, with forensic evidence confirming Billy's death, you would think the path to bringing the perpetrator to justice would be straightforward. But it was anything but. The central figure in all this, of course, was Chayawat Limlikit the former park chief who was the last official seen with Billy. Even though The DSI built a case and charged Chayawat and 3 others with serious crimes, including premeditated murder, illegal detention, and concealing a body. The most serious charges were dropped by the public prosecutor. Finally, on September 28, 2023, the Central Criminal Court for Corruption and Misconduct Cases delivered its verdict, and the result was complicated. The court acquitted Chayawat and the other on all of the most serious charges related to murder, illegal detention, and hiding the body. The reasoning was that there just wasn't enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they were the ones who did it. However, the court did find Chayawat guilty on one charge, malfeasance in office under Section 157 of the Criminal Code. This was for detaining Billy for possessing wild honey but then failing to hand him over to the police as required by law. For this crime, the court sentenced him to 3 years in prison with no suspensions. After the verdict, Chayawat was granted bail and is now appealing the decision. So, this verdict left a huge echoing question for the family and for society. Yes, there was a conviction, but only for neglecting his duties. So, who is responsible for Billy's death? Is it really the justice his family waited nearly a decade for? The burden of this fight fell on the shoulders of Billy's courageous wife, Muenor. For 10 years, she never stopped. In April 2024, she filed a civil lawsuit against the National Park Department, seeking compensation and demanding that the state take symbolic responsibility for what happened. But perhaps the most important, and you could say the one good thing to come out of this tragedy, was its change in the country's legal structures itself. The relentless fight by Billy's family, combined with public outcry from other similar cases, created a massive push that led to a historic change. Finally, Thailand passes the Act on Prevention and Suppression to Torture and Enforced Disappearance (BE.2565), which came into effect in 2023. This law is a huge deal. For the first time, it makes enforced disappearance a specific criminal offense under Thai law. It comes with severe penalties and set up stricter investigation process to prevent state officials from abusing their power and getting away with it. Even though this law can't be applied retroactively to Billy's case, it is his legacy. It's what he and his family gave to Thai society. Is a beacon of hope that will protect others and serve as a critical tool for families who might face the same horrific fate in the future. The story of Porlajee Billy Rakchongcharoen is more than just a horrifying crime. It's a profound story about courage, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of truth and justice. His fight was a fight for the right to live on ancestral land, a fight for the human dignity of his people. Even though the full truth might still be hidden, and complete justice might still be out of reach, Billy's legacy lives on in the strength of his community, in the unbreakable spirit of his family, and most importantly, in the very words of a law that will now protect others. His story is a painful reminder that some of the most powerful stories are the ones that don't have an ending yet. They echo the unanswered questions of the past and challenge all of us to demand a more just future for everyone. Thank you for joining me today as we dove deep into a story that remains etched in the memory of Thai society. Billy's story isn't just a historical wow. It's a lesson that reminds us of the power of a single voice that dares to stand up for what's right, and the importance of a society that refuses to look away from injustice. If you found today's story meaningful and want to keep following deep dives like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss my next episode. Your likes and shares help keep the voice of Billy and so many others from being silenced. It makes you a part of building a society that questions, demand, and fight for justice together. And of course, it's like a help support to me. And today's Siam Sinister story happily. See you next time. Bye. Alright, before we truly part ways, I would like to read a letter that Muenor wrote to Billy after he was gone. Of course, she wrote it in Thai, but I have to translate it. The letter reads, For Billy, ever since that day you decided to help Grandpa Koi, you told me that if you ever disappeared, you told me not to worry, not to look for you, and not to overthink it. You said to just take good care of our 5 children. I want to tell you that I truly cannot do as you say. We have the right to demand justice. It is what our family deserves. I will continue to carry out this duty until the very end. If your spirit can hear this, I want you not to worry. My coming out to demand justice is for everyone, not just for our family. The rest of my life exists because of friends and people around me. I want to volunteer and help others as much as possible. I no longer want to do anything for myself. When I wake up and someone asks for help, if I see that I can, I will help them to the fullest. As long as I have the strength, I will go and do that. Therefore, Billy, you don't have to worry. I will continue to fight for our rights, the rights we deserve. I will never lose hope. I still believe in justice.